Now, as we are moving on, we are looking at classification of flowering plants. Then we are going to look at flowers. Then a flower, from primary 4 we've been looking at flowers. Then again we are also once again we are looking at flowers. So a flower is a reproductive part of a plant. So a flower is a reproductive part of a plant, meaning that it enables a plant to do what? To reproduce. And then this flower, it is if you look at the parts of a flower, the flower is made up of, we are going to start with the two parts here. It has a solen part, there is this solen part and the stalk. This one is the flower stalk, which is also called the pedicel. Then this solen part is called the thalamus. We can call this one the thalamus, and if you don't call it a thalamus, we can call it the receptacle. So this receptacle, it is the part where the 4 floral holes are going to be arranged. We have what we call 4 floral holes. So they are going to be attached onto this thalamus or the receptacle. And then we have the outer one, there are 4. Then we have the outermost. This outermost, it is green in color, and it is called the corolla. Not the corolla, it is called the calyx. So the outermost floral hole is called the calyx. This is the hole. When it is one, it is called the sepal. So this sepal, it is green in color. So if I'm to draw, then this one, it is the outer one. This is the sepal, making the floral hole called the calyx. Then from this one we are having the brightly colored one. This. So this is the second floral hole. When there are very many, we are they make what called the corolla. So when it is only one, it is called the petal. So it is brightly colored. So that is the second floral hole. Now this calyx and the corolla, they form what we call they are non-reproductive parts. So for them, they don't take part in reproduction of a plant. So we call them non-essential parts. So they are non-essential, meaning that they don't take a part in reproduction of a plant. Then the third floral hole, it's called the gynoesium. So it is called the gynoesium. So it is starting sorry, it's not the gynoesium. It's not the gynoesium. It's not the gynoesium, it is called the androecium. So this one is the androecium. So it is made up of 2 parts. So it has this longer part, then it has also the head. Then this one, this head here, this is the anther, and again this one is the filament. And this one is the filament. Then the last floral hole, it is in the center here. It has 3 parts. It has this one, then it has this, and also this. So this one is the stigma, then this one is the style, and then this one becomes the ovary. So these 3 parts, they make the fourth floral hole, called the gynoesium. Then from what I've drawn, we are going to compare it with what we are seeing here. So we say it has this one, the stalk, and this one is what we call the pedicel or the flower stalk. It is the pedicel. Then this solen part here, it is what we call the receptacle or our thalamus, onto which the 4 floral holes are arranged. The first hole, it is this one, the sepal is green in color. Then when they are very many, when they are in a group, they are forming what we call the calyx. Then from there we have the second floral hole, which is brightly colored, and this one is called the petal. When they are in a group, this with this one, they are forming what we call the corolla. So the corolla and the calyx, they are non-essential parts of a flower, meaning they don't participate in the reproduction of a flower. Then from there we are looking at the third floral hole, which is made up of 2 parts. There is this one, and this part here. So this part here, it is the anther, and then again this one becomes the filament. So these two parts here, they are making the third floral hole, which is called the androecium. So it is the androecium. When there are many, this one, that's androecium. When it is one like this one, it is forming what we call the stamen, which we are going to see further there where we are going. Then again, the last one, it is found in the middle or the center of the thalamus or the receptacle. So it has this swollen part, which is called the ovary. Then it has this long tube, cylinder tube, which is called the style. Then it has these three things at the top. These ones are making what we call the stigma. So now these three parts here, they are making what we call the gynoesium. When it is just one, it is called a pistil. Therefore, we are naming this flower once again, all of us together there. This one is the pistil, this is the receptacle, the sepal, the filament stalk, the anther, the petal, the stigma, the style, and the ovary. The ovary, the style, the stigma, anther, filament stalk, petal, or petal when they are very many, they form corolla, then receptacle, and the pedicel. So in the next from there, what next is to look at the function of each part we have named there, because each part has a use. Now let us look at the functions, or the function of each part as we have discussed. Then let us start with the flower stalk. This one is the flower stalk, the receptacle, the sepal, the petal, the ovary. Then inside the ovary, you are having these blue things which we call the ovules. Then you have the anther. Then this is the filament stalk. Then this is the stigma and the style. So let us start with the pedicel. The importance of the pedicel, which is also known as the flower stalk, is to hold the flower onto the stem or a branch. So it holds the flower onto a stem or a branch. Then we are having the receptacle. We will say the receptacle, that is the part where the 4 floral holes are attached. So all the 4 floral holes are attached onto the receptacle. Then we are having the sepal. A group of sepals is called the calyx, this floral hole. These sepals, they protect the flower when it is in its bud stage, bud of bud, when it is still an eye, when it is still young. So it is being closed, or it is being covered by the what we call the calyx. The sepal, when there are very many, we call them the calyx. And apart from that one, we are seeing them with chlorophyll, which means that they also make food for a flower. So they also make food for a flower. Then from there, we are having the second floral hole, that is the petal. So the petals, they have a bright color. So they are brightly colored in order to do what? To attract pollinators, as we are going to discuss further. So they are brightly colored, and when they are very many, when they are in a group, they form a floral hole called the corolla. Then from there, we are having what we call the anther. So these anthers are very important in a way that they are going to produce what we call the pollen grains. They are going to produce pollen grains. Then these pollen grains are what we call the male gametes. So pollen grains are the male gametes though. So what is a gamete? A gamete is going to be, or is a reproductive cell. It is a reproductive cell of an organism. So with the flowers, with the plants, they are reproductive cells. The male reproductive cells, they are called pollen grains produced by the anthers. Then the anthers are held in position by the filament by the filament stalk. So the filament stalk holds the anther in position in order to produce pollen grains. Then the anther and the filament stalk, there are two parts here. We have the anther and the filament stalk. These two parts, they make what we call the stamen, and this stamen is what we call, or is a male part of a flower. It's a male part because it's producing the male gamete called the pollen grains. Then we are having the stigma. So this stigma you are seeing here, this is the stigma. Its work is to do what? To receive pollen grains. So the stigma receives pollen grains that are produced by the anthers from here, just here. Then these pollen grains, when they reach the stigma, what's going to happen? They are going to grow into pollen tubes. The moment the pollen grains sit on the stigma, they are going to grow into pollen tubes. Then these pollen tubes are going to be directed downwards the ovary by what we call the style. So a style is a tube-like structure where pollen tubes pass. So a style is a passage of pollen tubes. So it is pollen tubes is a passage of pollen tubes. So it is very wrong to say that the style is the passage of pollen grains. No, it is the passage of pollen tubes, because when the anthers, when the pollen grains sit on the stigma, immediately they are going to grow into pollen tubes. They are no longer called pollen grains. Then let us look at now the ovary. So the ovary, it is where fertilization is going to take place. So in the ovary is where fertilization is going to take place, and also the ovary produces or protects what we call the ovules. So these seed-like structures you are seeing, this is the ovary, then these ones are called the ovules. So inside this swollen part here is where we are having fertilization. Remember, fertilization is the union of a male and a female gamete, meaning that these ovules, they are the female gametes. So they are the female gametes. So the ovules are going to meet with the pollen grains to form what we call seeds. Then that meeting of ovules and pollen grains is called fertilization, because this one is the female gamete, the ovule, then the pollen grain which is now a pollen tube, it's also a male gamete. When they meet, that is what we call fertilization. So it takes place within the ovary. Now these three parts, the stigma, the style, and the ovary, they are forming what we call a pistil. So it has the stigma, then it has the style and the ovary. So this is the stigma, the style, and the ovary. So these three parts make up what we call a pistil, and a pistil is a female part of a flower. A female part is called a pistil, a male part is called the stamen, made up of two parts, the anther and the filament stalk. Then this one made up of three parts, the stigma, the style, and the ovary. So within the ovary we are having the ovules that are making what we call the female gametes, and within the ovary we are going to have fertilization. Then after fertilization, our ovules inside here, they are going to turn into what we call the seeds. Then the ovary is going to become a feriote. So you've been a good learner. Please, I urge you to do the assignment, the activity which is given below the video. Number one, what name is given? Number one, what is a flower? What is a flower? Number two, what name is given? What name is given to a female part of a flower? A female part of a flower. Number three, how useful is a petal to a bean flower? Number four, in the space below, draw a stamen. Number five, which part of a flower protects it? Which part of a flower protects it? Which part of a flower protects it during a bud stage? Number next, in the space below, draw a pistil. Number 7, what does a fish use to breathe? Number 8, draw a flower and label all the parts. So you've been a good learner. This one marks the end of our lesson today about flowers. So I urge you to do the activity and inbox me for marking, and also write the notes that are below the video. We meet in the next lesson. It will be about pollination.